sanctuary, welcome here. Regardless of your racial, ethnic background, sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression, you are welcome here. Whether you garner energy from being around lots of people, or maybe more so sitting in the corner with a good book, you are welcome here. Regardless of where you live, your economic status, you are welcome here. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. I invite you, as we gather, we are making a commitment to seek harmonizing of our bodies as we worship. So let's pause before our written gathering prayer. Just pause and pay attention to color around us, light and shadow, maybe aromas, however subtle, the taste of the spores in the air. As we worship, our praise, our silence, our community is impacted by our surroundings, and we acknowledge all of the textures of our environment. Join me in our gathering prayer. Through the rumble of civic conflict and our own internal distress, O holiness, we call and seek shalom. We join together to raise voice and breath in the velvety textures of silence. We await a new stirring and purpose for our lives together. Amen. I invite you, whether you are in the sanctuary or at home with Zoom, to rise as you are able in body and or spirit. May be seated. We come to our time of celebrations and prayer concerns in just a moment. I will invite those in the sanctuary to share briefly, and also those on Zoom to do the same. What it is you celebrate or what prayer request you may have. It is a delight to have with us Rebecca. We continue to pray for so many, those in our community who are recovering from COVID. We continue prayers for Ralph, for Bev as she continues her recovery at home, for Diane, who as of this weekend her heart is in rhythm. We're glad for that. We continue to hold Chesney's family in prayers as they continue to grieve the death of her brother. We pray for all folks who struggle with depression, anxiety, or mental health challenges. We celebrate all of the relational meetings that are taking place in this congregation. Who's had a relational meeting? Who would like to have a relational meeting with somebody? Make note of that. We celebrate all of the meetings we had this past week, discerning priorities and vision for the year ahead and in all of the various committees and teams. Angela asks for prayers for her niece, Leslie. We pray for strategies and action to alleviate gun violence, whether that's in California or in a park with a 12-year-old here in our own city. And we pray for faithful response on this 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade to continue efforts for reproductive rights. What is it that you have on your hearts today? Yes, Anne.
I have a celebration. I've completed my treatments, and I want to thank all of you for your care, concern, and prayers.
And celebrates completion of treatment and thanks everyone for their support and prayer. Cindy.
I want to pray for those who are homeless and
For those who are struggling economically, for those who are without permanent housing. Lisa.
Kenna, my goddaughter Kenna.
Pray for Kenna, Lisa's goddaughter. For Becky grieving the death of her spouse. How about those of you on Zoom? Beth asks for prayers for Jan, hip operation being delayed a week. Diane, on day 4 of Heart in Rhythm, thank you for prayers and notes and cards. Who else? Carol asks for prayers. Her father has had a stroke. Peggy asks is thankful for health as she's been recovering. Anybody else? Sashi.
I'm going through a lot of change and coming to terms with mistakes and getting things right inside.
Prayers for centeredness and wisdom, discernment in the midst of change. I think probably we all are praying for that. Before we move to our guests, I'm going to ask Andy to come forward and introduce them. I want to ask you, what is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline number? Who knows it? Say that again, 988. One more time, 988. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's my great honor and privilege to introduce to you here in the sanctuary and through Zoom, Louise Wilton and Sue Bennett, who are the president and treasurer, respectively, of the Northwest Piedmont chapter of the local National Alliance on Mental Illness. Louise and Sue will share with you about the wonderful programs and services that they offer. But more importantly, just want you to also know that for my 20 plus years here in Winston-Salem, I have worked very closely with both Louise and Sue in a lot of different initiatives over the years through advocacy work, legislative advocacy work, but also just with programs and services right here in Forsyth County, including mental health treatment court, crisis intervention team training, as well as, especially with Sue, very similar to the WISE team program here at Parkway through mental health initiatives outreach through the Moravian Synod. And so without any further ado, please help me welcome Louise Wilton and Sue Bennett.
Thank you. NAMI started with two women in the late 70s. They were sitting in a cafe in the middle of the morning. They didn't know each other, but each of them had a young adult son with a mental illness. And both mothers were very concerned and confused, seeking support and seeking information. They got to talking like you do. And from that simple conversation, NAMI was born. We now have groups, NAMI chapters, or as we call them, affiliates, in all of our states. Most NAMI people like Sue and I are unpaid volunteers. We are either family members of someone with a mental illness, or we are people who have a mental health diagnosis ourselves. And each chapter is a little bit different depending on what volunteers we have. So Sue's going to tell you about the programs that we offer locally here.
Good morning. When Louise talks about locally here, our local NAMI is with Forsyth, Stokes, Davie, and my brain just went, Davidson counties. And we have the fortunate, like she said, circumstances of having both people that are family members and people that are diagnosed family members as well. And because of that, we're able to offer more programs. Our family members, like Louise and myself, offer Family to Family, which is an 8-week educational program. It gives you knowledge of the illnesses as well as support ways of helping your family member. Once you go through that program, you have a wealth of information of what you can use to help your family member in crisis. Then we also have support groups for families. We have them every week, first and third Mondays, and the second and fourth Tuesdays. My brain is just going crazy here. The second and fourth Tuesdays. All of the Family to Family and the family support groups are on Zoom. We have a flyer that gives you information about it, that you can find out how to connect to them if you're interested. Now, as far as the people with diagnoses, there's also an 8-week program for them that's called Peer to Peer. And it teaches them the various illnesses, how to relate to their medical providers, as well as how to work through reaching recovery and hopefully staying in that process. And we have a connection support group as well as the education program for them. That meets the third Wednesday of the month. Those two are both on Zoom as well. Now, one of the things as far as the people that are leading these programs, none of us are professionals. We have all been trained through NAMI's national program. Everything that the national office offers through their signature programs, we have to be trained through them to be able to offer them.
And we had a unique request when we were invited to join you today, and that is Adelaide said you would be very interested in us letting you know how your congregation could support NAMI. So I reached out to the rest of my board of directors and asked them for suggestions about how you can support NAMI. And there's a flyer out in your narthex that on the front has the programs that we offer, like the one Sue described, and how you can link up with them. And then on the back is the list of ways that you can support NAMI. And the first few are not directly related to NAMI, but involve talking about mental health issues in your home. I grew up hearing what to do if someone in my family had a stroke. I knew what the care progression was and all that. No one in my family ever mentioned mental illness. I had no clue. So help everybody know what mental illness is and that there is successful care out there so that if it does crop up, they won't be in that, oh, I don't know what to do, panic phase. There's also a brochure out there that we are really proud of and had very little to do with. One of our board members is a peer. She was diagnosed with mental illness. When she got out of the hospital, her aftercare plan said, attend a peer support group. Well, she'd never heard of a peer support group. She was aware enough that her brain wasn't functioning at 100%. She didn't know how to find a peer support group. So when she got into recovery, she determined she was going to pull together a list of free peer support groups that could be put in the hand of anybody who needed it. So they wouldn't have to Google things. There it was right there. So then we got a whole bunch of those printed. Andy gives them out through MHA and we hand them out, and we're going to leave some here for you. But that's just an example of what can be done at the grassroots by just regular people like us. And we invite you to join us if you want to. Thank you.
And we extend our gratitude and our prayers for your ongoing work, for your presence with us and in our community. Thank you. Our psalm today is Psalm 27, adapted from the Common English Bible, a rather well-known psalm. I invite your participation by taking a sigh whenever I read God. Let's practice that. God. The sovereign is my light and my salvation. Should I fear anyone? Adonai is a fortress protecting my life. Should I be frightened of anything? When evildoers come at me trying to eat me up, it's they, my foes and my enemies, who stumble and fall. If an army camps against me, my heart won't be afraid. If war comes up against me, I will continue to trust in this. I have asked one thing from God. It's all I seek, to live in God's house all of the days of my life, seeing beauty of the holy and constantly adoring their temple, because he will shelter me in his own dwelling during troubling times. He will hide me in a secret place in her own tent. She will set me up high, safe on a rock. Now my head is higher than the enemies surrounding me, and I will offer sacrifices in God's tent, sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and praise Adonai. God, listen to my voice when I cry out. Have mercy on me and answer me. Come, my heart says, seek God's face. Holy One, I do seek your face. Please don't hide it from me. Don't push your servant aside angrily. You have been my help. God, who saves me, don't neglect me. Don't leave me all alone. Even if my father and mother left me all alone, God would take me in. Adonai, teach me your ways. Because of my opponents, lead me on a good path. Don't give me over to the desires of my enemies, because false witnesses and violent accusers have taken their stand against me. But I have sure faith that I will experience God's goodness in the land of the living. Hope in the Holy One. Be strong. Let your heart take courage. Hope in the Holy One. What I notice in this Psalm 27 is a frequent request for protection from enemies, from those who camp around us, for those who may want us harm. What I hear in this psalm is a longing for a nestling into the safety of God's house. And what we begin to realize when we really dig into this psalm and all of its implications is that sometimes our enemies are actually projections of what we are struggling with what we are resisting and hiding within us. Sometimes our desire to push away, push down, even do violence to our own emotion, our own shadows, are enemies preventing us from living into wholeness. So our sacred text invites us into honesty about the enemies within which we might need befriending or at least some release. And whatever centering, whatever calming, whatever regulating practice you may have, which you may engage in, is an opportunity for each of us to build a house of sacred resourcing and care within us. Attempt by attempt of engaging a practice, we begin to establish a shelter, a portable temple, a truth for the troubling and as well as the tremendous times of life. So we take a few moments of silence today on this Silent Sunday. The invitation is open. Recite all of the things for which you are grateful is one suggestion. Simply bring awareness to your breath is another suggestion. Maybe journal what's really on your heart right now is another suggestion. Or if you're willing, take out that insert in our bulletin today to look at hard emotions, the pressure points of grief or guilt, and attempt that practice for a few moments. We're going to be led into it with our chant from Tazay, "The Lord is my light." We will conclude that time of silence by me inviting you to pray together the prayer which Jesus taught.
The Lord is my light, my light and salvation. The Lord is my light, my light and salvation. In God I trust, in God I trust. The light of salvation, the light of salvation.
siblings in worship as we move from the richness of held stillness together to the incarnations of presence in spoken prayer. I invite you to join with me, offering the prayer Jesus taught in the language and tradition of your choosing. Our Father, Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sin as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but for us is the kingdom. All right. For our passing of the peace today, our musicians are going to teach us a chant. The light in me honors the light within you. Say that. The light in me honors the light within you.
In you.
As we sing, to move about, offering that greeting to one another.
I He honors the light in you. Hello, everyone. Peace. Peace.
Same to you, Diane. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to everyone.
Yes.
Hope you didn't burn your fingers, Peggy.
Burn my fingers where?
Peggy Matthews, she's
Oh.
had this candle.
The land of the living. Doesn't say I will seek. Doesn't say I will hope for. Doesn't say finally when I die. Says in the land of the living. That's here and now. As usual, jump in whenever you're ready. I will see the goodness of the Lord. I will see the goodness of the Lord. I will see the goodness of the Lord every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day of my life. Though my enemies surround me, and I'm pressed on every side, I will sing and make my music to the God who lives on high. I will see the goodness of the Lord. I will see the goodness of the Lord. I will see the goodness of the Lord every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day of my life. Teach me patience in my yearnings, as the years will bring what may. Give me strength to bear the burdens that will surely come my way. I will see the goodness of the Lord. I will see the goodness of the Lord. I will see the goodness of the Lord every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day of my life. Make my path straight as an arrow. Keep me steady in my pace. No distractions on my journey, till I finally see your face. I will see the goodness of the Lord. I will see the goodness of the Lord. I will see the goodness of the Lord every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day of my life.
What a subversive, doxological commitment. I will see the goodness of the Lord. The invitation is all about to offer our love and support for one another, to offer our love and support for our neighbors, distant and far, to be a part of the slow churning towards justice with peace and to support this congregation with prayer and presence and leadership and hands and feet and heart, and sometimes with financial gifts. There's a offering plate in the back. We have an address to this building, 1465 Irving Street. And we have a button on our website for giving. And we're grateful for all that you do and give. In this season, as our leadership groups reorient themselves, there are a few who are making announcements and invitations. And our first is from the committee, Worship and Education, and we're delighted to have Judy share.
Thank you. This will be my third year on the Worship and Education Committee, my first real commitment at Parkway. Like some of you, I always said no to any real commitment, saying I worked long enough and I didn't want to do it anymore. But as you know, Parkway doesn't give up ever. So the third time they asked me to serve, I had to say yes. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate Parkway's persistence. So here is my take on what our committee is today. And from speaking with longtime committee members, it is not what it used to be. We do not dissect the worship service, deciding choice of hymns, etc. Craig does that and we applaud him. What we are is a sounding board for Craig and for the congregation. For example, during our December meeting, we finalized plans for a liturgist program whereby our youth and other members can take an active part in our Sunday services. Carl Halston, who also serves on the committee, offered to give a brief training session which took place following our service 2 Sundays ago. We're also working with Craig on his upcoming Lenten education series and exploring ways to enrich the Zoom worship experience, such as having a host to interact between the Zoom worshiper and our in-person congregants. We also hope to have services and gatherings on our new outside deck. So we need to figure out how to improve our sound systems for outside music. Tim is working on this, and he's also bringing environmental issues to our attention, which brings me to the real reason I'm so appreciative of having finally volunteered to serve on the Worship and Education Committee. Never have I been with a more committed group of individuals, and I'm sure that's true of our other Parkway committees as well. That's why I'm here, to invite you, if you are not on another committee, to be part of our committee. Several of our members have retired their service this year, and we need your voice. There are absolutely no qualifications to join. All I knew of worship and education was Catholic catechism, strict do's and don'ts, and a few Bible stories. In fact, my family and friends had a good laugh when I said I was joining the worship committee. But I think now they are beginning to understand how much we do to enrich our congregation and are even slightly jealous. I have benefited personally from those enrichments, and it feels really good to give back. Plus, being on the committee is fun. It is definitely not boring, and you get the inside scoop on all of Craig's ideas and on what's happening. That I really like. Sterling, our current chair, and Marlon before him make sure we move along through a carefully thought out agenda We rarely, if ever, go over our time limit, so you don't have to worry about people droning on and on. And I'm secretary, and so I put a stop to it because I get tired of writing all the words over and over again. So bottom line, I strongly urge that you too lend your time to just 2 hours once a month on Zoom. We need more voices like yours and would love for you to join us. Remember our church motto, you are welcome here. Please strongly consider joining the Worship and Education Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. A couple of announcements before we move to our closing hymn and opportunities for sacramental encounter. After church, there are 2 opportunities. For those who are exploring a deeper connection to Parkway, we will have lunch in the fellowship hall. I know some of you have let us know you were planning on doing that, but also our guests are ready right after church, right here in the sanctuary, to field your questions and have more conversation about NAMI and Parkway's interaction and support with their work. So Adelaide will be coming forward to facilitate that conversation. On February 1st, that's a Wednesday, at 6:15 in the evening, weather permitting, we'll be outside. We'll be celebrating the cross-quarter day of Candlemas or Embolic, with fire, with candles, with ritual. So put that on your calendar. That's February 1st on a Wednesday. We're moving now to our closing song, This Little Light of Mine. And while we do so, we invite you to come forward if you'd like to receive communion, to receive anointing with oil, and or to light a candle with a prayer for yourself or somebody else in your life, or with an intention for the week ahead. We'll be forming lines for communion over here, anointing over here.
It's the light of mine.
You're now committed, friends. All around the neighborhood, you're going to let it shine. Even on the days that it's hard to get out of bed. The days that you're just not quite feeling it. There is a way by your very presence and breath in interaction with the world that you can let it shine. Thanks be to God for each one of you, your witness in the midst of struggle and dream, hardship and possibility. Go forth this week in a just peace and stick around for conversation. Amen.